Hello and welcome to the Space Between Ideas. We are continuing our efforts today to develop an application. It's been an interesting couple days. Let me show you why. Let's start with the window. So, well, here's Slack. I haven't taken a real close look at Slack, but I think Slack is likely something that people use. And I noticed also that Slack has some, what do you call these? Marketplace. So I guess you can call these integration. There's some integration with ClickUp and Asana, Todoist. So these are all what are these things? These are called task management. When we talk about task management, we're talking about a to-do list. And the more I get into the to-do list issue, the more I'm seeing, basically your basic to-do list. I think probably the best one to look at is going to be ClickUp because ClickUp has got the Trello integration. You got your to-do list, you got the calendar view, you got the Gantt chart. I don't know, this table, you got the table view. You can add other views. So they have any kind of view that you can imagine. They have the integrations into all these other things. So it seems like ClickUp is probably the head of the game. When I look at Monday.com, it's just a task list. And then I started to think about maybe going deeper into some of these other things like Asana and whatever this one is, Smart Sheets, Right. The more I go deeper into this, the more I'm realizing that kind of like they're all kind of similar. And the more I go into it, the more I'm realizing actually that's not the point of the work of Thomas Buchholz and the work that I've been trying to build on top of his work. Because that last little step here, the scoreboard, this is just the actual definition of the task, what actually needs to be done. And objectives, the objective module, this really helps you. Like, okay, so what objective would you like to talk about? What are the steps you need to accomplish the objective? What additional business services are needed? What additional skills are necessary to complete the task? What tools are needed? Who will you need to contact in the process of work? Who will you need to cooperate with to complete the tasks? I think even this idea of like defining the objectives is going to help you to figure out what you should put into those tasks. Sometimes we don't know what the objective really should be. Instead of a yes, it's a no. And so then we have this other module to help us to think even more broadly about exactly what are we going to do in order to achieve our vision. Now, of course, there's also the famous, what's it called, OKR methodology. And the OKR methodology is a little bit different than what we're doing here because the scope of what's happening here is a simple relationship between a manager and the team, or a manager and their own tasks. So a manager is provided with some kind of objective. Either they have to create their own objective or they have to figure out the objective with their team. But the point is that this is a project. We create a project in order to, well, the objectives help us to achieve the project. And it's kind of hard. I mean, you can't really, the thing is the word project and the word objective, they can become interchangeable and they can also be reversed. So it just depends on how you define this stuff. But when you go into OKR methodology, because OKR, the word O, the letter O is objective and key result. Objective and key result is also a relationship between what it is you're trying to achieve, and then like what do you have to accomplish? What are the results you need in order to accomplish that objective? It's a relationship between two things. It's cause and effect. And there's always this idea that when you have a clear objective, then you're able to define what you need to do in order to achieve that objective. And OKR methodology has like a waterfall effect. So you can go to the CEO and say, okay, so what's the objective of this company in general? And then, okay, so then what are the objectives of the departments? And then what are the objectives of the managers? And then what are the objectives of the teams? Then what are the objectives of the projects? And then what are the objectives within the project? And then what are the tasks? And the objective key result methodology is that waterfall effect. So you can see that we're at the very end of that. We're asking what are the tasks? Those tasks are going to be used to complete objectives. So you could say that the tasks, maybe they're key results. Or maybe even these objectives are the key results of the project. So maybe the project is the objective, and then the objective is the key results. So you have all these different methodologies that use similar wording. But at the end of the day, basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to understand something which I call cube thinking. I think that my cube thinking is helpful when you're trying to understand objectives and key results. So here's some, cube thinking for OKR methodology. You have these, well, some people say that you have objectives, you have key activities, and then you have results. So there is some difference. So this is the basic OKR methodology. I will achieve this outcome by this date by doing this activity this many times in this period, in this time period. So when I say doing this activity is literally the key result. That's the key result right there, the activity. Now you have to define how many times you're going to do that activity and within what time period. Just like when you define the objective, which is the outcome, you also have to define the time period for that outcome. For example, I will gain 5 pounds of muscle within 2 months. So that's the outcome. At the end of period of time, I want to have 5 pounds of muscle. I'm going to be able to do that by doing this activity, for example, push-ups, this many times. So 20 push-ups this time period, Monday, Tuesday, Friday. And then I'm also going to do what activity? Running 30 minutes on Tuesdays and Saturdays. And then I will also there's also some other things I'm going to do related to health, which are not exactly, I mean, it's opposite. I will not eat rather than eat, but here I will eat. I will also eat. So there you go. And then at the end of the 2 month period, then you can go back to and look at your outcome. Did I achieve the outcome within the time period? If I didn't, then we need to talk about changing either the outcome that we're working toward, or we have to talk about changing the activity that we are doing. So I want to do a quick audio check. See if I can still hear myself. So good. There we go. Good. All right. Now, so why do I bring up cube thinking? Cube thinking is something that, as I was reading this stuff by Anders Ericsson, see when you really drill deep into Anders Ericsson's work, what he's saying is you have to define. For example, I want to become a better football player, so you have to define that with, for example, categories. So these are the three main categories for how you need to improve if you want to be a better football player or soccer player if you're in Canada or America. And then, well, you can't really design an exercise that improves your speed. Why? Because speed is too general of a term. So we actually need to define speed by what? Well, there's from 0 to 10. There's from 10 to 0. Then there's like turning speed. Then there's speed over a long period of time. And there's top speed. So exactly which speed do you want to improve? So, and this is the point of like you're going from large objectives when it comes to a CEO. and then smaller when you go to the department, and then smaller when you go to the team, and then smaller when you go to the project, and then smaller when you go to the objective, and then smaller when you go to the task. Now, once you have a task, see, when the CEO says, I want to increase my market share by 3% in the next 6 months. Okay. But that's not a task. There's like a category. Market share is a category. So, all right. So how do we define what are the subcategories of market share? And then you may even have to do more categories for one of those, and then may even have to do even more subcategories for one of those, and then eventually you're going to get down to something we call a task. And so, because of that nature, Anders Ericsson, he's good at explaining that there's a difference between becoming a good football player and these categories. You kind of get the sense that he jumps right into elements after your categories. I put in subcategories, which makes it seem like I'm adding something to his methodology. Gordon, you ran away. So there's that. So there's this important element here of like, what is this thing? What is this? I mean, because usually when people design their theories, they're not designing it to handle all cases. They're just designing the structure of the theory with some kind of leeway so that you can make some changes in case you want to adapt it to your own situation. All right, so then, and it's the same thing, the same problem with OKR methodology, because OKR, you have your objective and then you have your key result. The thing is that the waterfall method means that the objective for the CEO is the key result for the department, and the objectives, those same key results. The key results, when the CEO says, "Okay, I need these key results," what he's saying is the departments, the key results that they're delivering to the CEO's objectives are going to be the objectives for those departments. So the departments take the key results from off the piece of paper of the CEO. They become their objectives. And then the departments, they make some key results. They write them down and say, okay, these are the key results we need to achieve our objectives. And then the teams, one of the teams is going to take, or maybe you have 3 or 4 or 5 teams. Each of those teams, they take the department level key results and then they turn them into their objectives. And then the team says, okay, so in order to achieve this objective, then we need these following key results. And then those are going to be like projects. And then at the project level, those project level key results, they become the objective. So each project is an objective. And then within that project, what are the key results to deliver the objective? And those are going to be the objectives within the project. And then each of those projects are going to have their own objectives. So, and then those objectives are going to have some tasks associated with them. So you have your tasks. When somebody achieves those tasks, then it achieves the objective of that project. And then when those projects are achieved, those are the key results that have to be achieved so that the teams achieve their objectives. And then when all the teams achieve their key results, then it's going to allow the departments to achieve their objectives. And when all the departments achieve their key results, then it's going to allow the CEO to achieve their objectives. So it's a waterfall system. Same as the Eric Anders work on whatever he calls this thing, deliberate practice. Now with deliberate practice, what we're talking about is we're trying to improve these elements in order for us to become a better something, like to improve our skills. Whereas the OKR methodology, it means we have to accomplish something in order to get some kind of result. It's similar, but it's slightly different. Now, why did I create this thing called cube thinking? Because I saw this pattern over and over again. For example, tell me some of the things that you want to achieve. So I want to enjoy a vacation in Rome. I want to finish my website. I want to find some new employees. I want to onboard some new clients. All right, so let's just pick one. We'll just pick the first one, enjoying a vacation in Rome. You could break all four of those down into smaller pieces. In this case, we're just going to focus on one. So, all right, so if I want to go to Rome, then I need to decide on the locations and tourist sites of the trip. And then I need to figure out how many days I'll be there. I need to plan the hotels and the restaurants. I need to buy the ticket. Now, but the thing is, each of those can break down into smaller pieces. So we put going to Rome at the top, and then we go 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. Now, for 1A, we can break those down into smaller. So I'm going to search on Google or TripAdvisor. I'm going to read the articles and comments. I'm going to compare the photos, send links to people coming with me on the trip. I'm going to fit the locations within the schedule. Now, you could then take these four items and then put them across the top. For example, what are the exact steps that you're going to have to take in order to search on Google and TripAdvisor? What are the exact steps of reading articles and reading the comments? What are the exact steps of comparing the photos and sending links to people that are coming with me? What are the exact steps of then taking those items and putting them into a schedule? So at some point, you don't really, you just expect, you have some expectation that somebody has enough skill that they can do that. Like when we're going to university, we're learning very, very simplified patterns, very, very simplified processes. See, if we go into my next course, which is also based on Tom's work, eventually you're going to get down to this thing where Tom is explaining, like, this is what you want. You want procedural work. You want people to be following a process. What work is done routinely? If it's not done routinely, then the question is, so what processes are we going to have to stop? And then what processes are we going to have to start? Or, okay, so now maybe they don't know what they're doing. When they use Google, they're not good at using Google. They don't know how to use TripAdvisor. So when they start this new activity of using TripAdvisor, they're going to be making a lot of mistakes. It's going to take them a long time. I mean, hopefully at some point they can figure out how to do it without too many problems. It's kind of like right now. So I'm trying to use, right now I'm using Gemini. I stopped using ChatGPT. I'm starting to use Gemini in order to then code using Cursor, Windsurf, Replete. And right now we're just having a heck of a time getting it to work. And it's like a very slow process. But, we're coming along. Now, eventually, the whole point of this is because I'm experimenting with processes, the process of using Gemini, a process of using ChatGPT, maybe a process in the future using Claude, a process using Cursor, Windsurf, Replete. And I'm trying to make a decision about which process I'm eventually going to pick. Now, after I pick a process, then I'm going to see if I can integrate those tools together somehow so that we get a smoother process. And then at some point, we're able to get the result with very little effort. All right, so all of these different methodologies, they work together. And obviously they work in my head because I think about these things all the time. At the end of the day, what we're trying to do is we got to get back to our good buddy, Google Gemini. All right, and then what are we trying to do here? Now, recently, Wave 8, so some kind of like, there's some new documentation that came out with Windsurf. And so I was like wondering, hey, maybe should I ask Gemini to read the documentation for these things? Anyways, it wants me to install Jest and related packages. So, okay, so before we start, maybe I'll just do audio. All right, so I just turned on my computer and I opened up Windsurf and Cursor, and I'm not sure if they are ready to take the next step. So maybe we need to ask Windsurf or Cursor or both if they've set up the development environment and if they're ready to go. All right, so that means we're now ready to go. Now, I want to see if I can just turn the audio back on like that one time. So you can listen to Gemini talk. Problem is sometimes it doesn't share the screen. All right, so it looks like it's sharing the screen. All right, so then let's turn on the audio. Okay, so where are we?
You've hit on a critical point for any development workflow, Project Manager. After a restart or logging back in, we need to ensure our development environment is properly reinitialized. Let's go through the steps to check and ensure both Cursor and Windsurf are ready, following the recommendations for local Supabase stack management we discussed and which the architect endorsed. Step 1. Manual prerequisite check, for you to do on your Mac. 1. Ensure Docker Desktop is running. Please check if Docker Desktop has started automatically on your Mac. Look for the Docker whale icon in your macOS menu bar. It should be steady and indicate Docker is running. If it's not running, please start Docker Desktop manually now. Please confirm once Docker Desktop is running. Once Docker is running, we'll proceed with checking and preparing the Cursor environment first, as it's our designated control project for starting and stopping the local Supabase stack. Step 2. Prepare and verify Cursor environment. Plain text request for Cursor AI. Text. I've just restarted my computer and opened this project. Users, James Gates, Documents, Cursor, Gemini Test Cursor, Guidance MVP. I need to ensure our local Supabase development environment.
All right, so I just plugged it in. Then I'm going to taste. All right, so now I'm going to share the whole screen. See what we're seeing in general. All right. Seems like the Supabase command was not found. It's driving me crazy, man. Now, do I need all this space for Cursor? Not really. I can make this smaller. What are these things? Here we go. It seems more realistic. Seems that we hit the same path issue again with the integrated terminal. We correctly identified the initial directory, successfully changed the project directory. It attempted to run Supabase version Docker or something. It seems like the Supabase command was not found. Diagnosis by all right. All right, so this is obviously not the language I speak, and I have no idea what the heck is going on. So looks like it started working. Now the question I want is like, what can we learn from this? Because I don't want to have to do this over and over again. So they run the source command completed without any output errors. I'll try to verify CLL version again. Great. Now they found everything. They go to status, Supabase status. Everything's good. Indicate stop services. All right, so now it's what? Now it's running terminal command. right, so let's move this just slightly so we can look at both at the same time. All right. Now, while we're waiting for this, let's just jump back into our Arrowhead. So in our Arrowhead, we have our project calibration, which is the 6 documents I upload when I want to calibrate the Gemini AI tool. Then I got the tech stack and brand calibration. Now I just use this one only when asking the AI code tool Cursor what they like to do for a tech stack for this specific project. We don't have to do this every time because we've already started the project. But then we have the markdown file for the tech stack. What is this? Let's just pop this one open. All right, so this one explains what we're doing. We want Google Gemini to understand the tech stack that we're going to be using with Cursor. And then that way it knows how to communicate with Cursor. Then we put in our markdown file for the brand book. Remember, we created a brand book, a basic brand book, just so that when it starts making UI elements, then it'll have some basis for what it should look like. And then now we're in sprint 1. So sprint 1. Oh, wait, here. So then we got the sprint calibration tool. So in here, number 8, it's like explains all of the sprints. So you can see here, we got sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, sprint 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we're starting with, now I also have an additional markdown file. So you can see I feed it with all these documents, with 9 documents. This one explains how there's going to be like 2 different roles. So on the left, I have Gemini. It's like an architect role, and then the other Gemini is like the step-by-step process. Let's resume this. All right. So once all of that is set up, so it means that if I suddenly lost this these 2 Gemini windows, then I can just upload all these documents to a new AI chatbot, Claude, ChatGPT, something else, and I can continue on the sprint. And then here's the current step calibration, meaning we're on sprint 1. We're on the first element of sprint 1. What are we doing here? All right, so here we are. Here's the objective and goals. We're focused on we're doing sprint 1, establish foundational infrastructure and authentication. So that's actually what we're doing. This is the actual situation. This is our current step. All of these systems enable me to have confidence that if somehow I lost access to these 2 Gemini windows, then I can restart the project with a different AI tool. Now, as for like the actual code in these 2 development environments, the way that I'm going to work with these 2 systems is that at some point I'm going to have backups. Right? So right now I don't actually have the backup. There we go. So now actually we have the same environment with both of these. Looks like Cursor and Windsurf are basically just copying each other. How they set up the windows, how they work with everything. Now, see, the problem I have now is like, do you see how I can't copy and paste this? They do have like a copy message button. And I don't even know what it copied. No, I don't want these keys to be like changing all the time. All right, so now we're gonna just check to see if the super base environment actually is working. I wonder if it still has those 2 projects in it. It doesn't look like it saved our 2 little projects. Authentication, providers, subsection. I don't see any providers. Provider, subsection. I don't know if it's on or off. Anyways, now it's on. They always talk about this, disabling this. All right. So what I'm doing now is I need just one command to get everything started up again, and then I want to be able to save it in Arrowhead. So after Sprint collaboration, I want the next one to be like Supabase / Docker startup IDE engines. That's what I need, right? Okay, so master prompt. They're calling it a master prompt. Cursor master prompt. All right, so then what we do is we go over here, we add another one. It's going to be number 10, master prompt. Prompt. Startup at startup screen for Cursor Connect Docker and Supabase. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to copy this, pop it in there. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to save. It's already saved, so we're going to shut down Cursor, and then we're going to also shut down Windsurf, and we're also going to shut down Docker. Okay, so now we're going to open up Docker. And then we're going to open up Cursor. We're going to open up Windsurf. Count to 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then we're going to pop that in there. And What? Verify the windsurf environment. Now that we've successfully patterned Cursor, we should do a similar check with Windsurf to ensure its terminal also correctly sources. We need this. There we go. It doesn't do this. It's Cursor Windsurf. All right, now we're going to pop this in here. Now, I kind of expect there to be a little problem because, I don't know, can they both be connected at the same time? All right, so now what do I do with this? Open the project in Windsurf, paste this into the chat, and then put in the response. Now, I think what I'm going to have to do is, I got a message from Google Gemini. They said that my account is going to run out in like the next 2 days. So I can't remember when the last time was that I paid for Cursor and Windsurf and Replete, but like the 1 month challenge, it's not possible because I didn't run out of any credits so far of Cursor or Windsurf or Replete. It's true I only have like maybe 1 hour average per day that I can work on this project. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. Anyway, so the plan now is I'm going to extend my my Gemini Advanced subscription. I'm going to pay for another month. See what happens with that. I can't really increase the amount of time that I'm spending on this project. So it may be that we get through the whole month of these 2 different coding tools and I don't run out of credits with either. Also, I think that it's not really fair the way that these systems are set up because of some of the work I did previously. I don't think that we did the same amount of work with each of the systems. I think now that we have very clear sprints and we're doing exactly the same project with both Windsurf and Cursor at the same time, then definitely after we renew the subscriptions next month, we'll have the exact same amount of work being done on both systems. Also, since we're spending quite a few credits on the setup of the Supabase integration, and Replete has its own database integrated within itself, then it means that we've spent a huge amount of credits setting up the database. Now, obviously, that's going to affect you and your decision of whether to pick Replete or to pick one of these, either Windsurf or Cursor. But that's only the very first step. So although it may seem like, oh, well, you're spending all these credits setting up your database. I don't know. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Because we don't really know yet. Maybe in the future, we're going to find some benefit that's going to outweigh the benefit of having the Replete internal database. Or maybe we find out. So we're going to discover this over the long term. It's going to be a step-by-step process. Well, I don't know what's happening down here. Probably it's going to want me to do something. Sometimes Okay. Please. All right. I'm just going to let it keep going. I don't really have a lot to say right now. I'm going to keep working with this until we have the master prompt. We're going to have the first master prompt is going to be the cursor master prompt. And then we're going to have the next one is going to be the windsurf master prompt. Then once we have these two master prompts, then it means that we're going to easily be able to set up our environments. Once we can easily set up our environments. All right, I'm going to stop. I kind of want to stop having to do this. I have to reauthorize it so many times. Seems like every time I connect with it, I have to reauthorize it. I just find that strange. And then what? And then it's just so I can get the preview. Well, there you go. So now I got my preview. That's my cursor. And then after this, we're going to need our I don't know why it does that. All right, here, so we can say the C why does it say C master prompt? Done. Wow, that's interesting. It doesn't actually give us the right text. Anyways, still in the process of creating a set of documents so that everything can start up and we don't have problems. And I'll see what we can do, and we'll talk to you later.